I need to put my glasses on so I can actually see. That's a problem getting old. You know, I'm once again being kind of a half-empty kind of guy. I always wonder, like, are we making a difference? And this is what I'll tell you, and I think Richard brought that up. In the 70s and 80s, we were killing 24 million animals a year in America. 24 million. I think it's like 60,000 a day. And now they're saying 3 million. I don't believe the 24 million. I didn't believe the 3 million. I think it was probably closer to 30 million, and my guess is we're probably close to 6 million right now. But even if you take the numbers that they have, 24 to 3, or if you take my numbers, 30 to 6, that's over a 20-some year period. That's a hell of a drop. You know, that's just tremendous. You know, and I mean, it's doable is the point. It makes the goal in sight. You know it's there. There's a possibility of actually achieving something. It has to do with education. We all talk about education, but we do very little of it. As a veterinary profession, we're really bad about educating people. Someone brings in their mixed breed mutt, and he's really cool. I got to breed him because I want one just like him. What does that mean? You know, or she has to have a litter to settle her. I'm thinking, God, well, I guess I better have a child with my wife because she's not very settled, and, you know, and at 40, I don't know. It may be too late. So this is just a list of the groups, you know, that are kind of for prepubertal spay-neuter, and they're pretty substantial, you know. And there's some big names there: Colorado State, Florida State. I mean, these are you know. Cornell University, you know, these are not slouchy universities, some of the best in the world, you know. So how can, as a profession, I can say, well, I don't believe in it, you know, and it has to be bad. Well, if everyone else believes in it, why don't you believe in it, you know? It simply goes back to tradition, you know. It's something they fear. You know, the mantra of the veterinary profession is we fear change, and we really do, because you always are afraid of something different. Change an anesthetic protocol. Try to get someone to change their anesthetic protocol. They will go crazy because they are so afraid of killing something or doing something wrong. So, and there's probably a good reason for being a little conservative and being a little afraid of change. But at the same time, it can't stifle you when you're looking at the massive overpopulation, the massive destruction of what we consider companion animals. It's never made any sense to me. And once again, I may not be a real bright guy, but you know, how can you take an animal in with a broken leg to a nice hospital, and I go, well, it's $3,000 to fix his broken leg. And the people are sitting there, you know, they have 3 kids, and they're just barely making it, and our economy's not good right now, and they go, well, I don't have $3,000. Well, we'll put it to sleep and kill it for you for $100. Now, you know, where's the intrinsic value of the animal? What as a profession are you telling that person? You know, if you have $3,000, I will fix your dog, and I'm worth every penny of that. But if you don't have $3,000, I'll kill it for $100. I don't understand that, you know, and there's nothing in between. How is that possible? It makes no sense to me. You know, I can do the same $3,000 surgery for $300, and I can make money on it. How is that possible for me to be able to do that and them not being able to do that? They don't want to lower their standard. Well, what does that mean? You know, that's never been clear to me either. Lowering the standard, saving a life is what you're doing. And you have to look at the big picture. You have a family there. You have 3 kids that care about the animal. The animal, you know, let's say it jumped out of the car. Something happened, who knows? But the point is, they didn't intend that tragedy to happen when it did, and they don't have the money. So the best we can do as a modern society and as a profession is to say, we'll kill it for you. I find that just revolting, quite frankly, which is probably why vets don't like me too much. This is why humane societies don't always like me either. Warehousing. Companion animals will never solve overpopulation. If you have 100 cages, you'll have 120 animals in them. That does not solve anything. Okay? Does it make a difference to some of those individual animals? I'd almost make the argument it's probably worse for them, not better for them, but that's beside the point. You know, you must have an educational campaign. You must be doing spay-neuter. You must have a feral cat campaign. There's no question. You know, the cats have about 2.1 litters a year, 4.5 kittens per litter. It's perpetual, you know. And the bottom line is 80%, there's some estimates as high as 80% of the kittens, the new kittens in America that go into shelters or go into people's houses come from the feral or the stray populations, not from the owned ones, because we know about 80-some%, almost 90% are already fixed. And I think it's probably the same here, about 90% are fixed of cats, you know, that are owned, identified as owned. Okay, so it always gets to be, you know, the person that comes in and says, well, this cat has an abscess. It's not really my cat. I've only been feeding it for the last 3 years. When does it become your cat? I don't know, you know. So there's no question as a profession, And as a group, we've done a really poor job of educating people about cats. We're kind of on board with dogs. We understand them as family members. 65, 80% of the people consider their dog part of their family. Okay? We don't consider cats quite the same way. Probably because dogs have been domesticated for 80 to 100,000 years. They're the first animal ever domesticated by mankind. Okay? So we have a primordial connection with them. Cats, okay, more like 6,000 to 10,000 years. So we're not quite there yet. So maybe in another 100,000 years we'll look at them differently. Who knows? But I think these are basic things I really believe you need to do. I don't have up there Peter Curley's name, but Rex Foundation, Peter Curley, Budapest, Hungary, they got a huge grant and they had a choice. They could build a bunch more cages and they had like a space for about 100 animals. And he said, no, that doesn't make sense. Let's instead build a spay-neuter facility and do more spay-neuter and offer it for low cost, and let's hire a trainer, a dog trainer that comes out 3 days a week, and let's hire an animal behaviorist that comes out 3 days a week and works with the animals. So when someone brings an animal, why are you bringing me this animal? He's peeing all over my house. Okay, it's a little dog that's marking because he's not neutered. Just by neutering you can drop the problems by something like 70%, on cats about 90%. So that's where we come in, that's where you come in, and that's the future, okay? As you get down to zero, you're still going to have problems. You're still going to have people bringing in animals for some ridiculous reason. The question is, can we rehome those back in the same home because we've corrected the problem? And that's where behavior and behavior modification and training and things like that and education come in. I think they're really important. This kind of goes into the medical stuff, and I can spend 3 hours just on this slide, but the bottom line is urinary incontinence, I'll give you that one. It's about twice as much, okay? But once again, the argument's not valid when you consider the difference between life and death. It just doesn't make sense, And veterinarians are always saying, well, if you spay everything, then we won't have any animals, we won't make any money. We'll say, well, if I spay everything, you'll have incontinence, so you can sell them drugs. So, it's all a matter of perspective and how you look at it, So, it does go back to correlation versus causation. Vegetarians live 7 years on average longer. Why is that? Not because they're vegetarians per se, but because vegetarians tend to have a certain lifestyle, a healthier lifestyle overall. It's not just because they're vegetarians, okay? Does it help? Sure. They're probably not going to have a heart attack, but they're just as prone to have certain kinds of cancers. So, people use hemangiosarcoma is more common in fixed female or fixed male golden retrievers and females than unfixed. Okay, once again, where's the population base you coming from? And it represents less than 0.2% of the total cancers in those dogs. So how much of a factor is that when you're looking at thousands, millions of animals being killed? It's just not a valid factor. I like purebred dogs. I don't have a problem with legitimate good breeders breeding legitimate good dogs. But how many veterinarians actually will say to you when you bring in, the classic would be, I'm trying to think here. I had someone bring in a Pomeranian once, and they bought it at a pet store, and it cost $600 or $800, and they were thinking about breeding it. It was 3 months old, and it weighed 30 pounds. Now, I don't know if you know anything about Pomeranians, but they're really not supposed to be 30 pounds at 3 months old. And I'm looking at that dog, I think, well, I think there was a chow in there somewhere, I don't know, it's like, that's not a Pomeranian, but this person had a paper that said it was a Pomeranian, and by God, they wanted to breed it, and that's the kind of thing. How many vets are going to interact with them? Now, their choice with me is, okay, you either fix it, or there's the door. Don't let it hit you on the ass on the way out. Because I have a full-service veterinary hospital. We do everything, but nothing leaves our front door without being fixed. And we're probably the only for-profit in America that's that way, and we've been that way ever since I started. And I have, just for the record, 50,000 clients in my registry, which is a pretty big hospital by any standard. Here this is, if you get into prepubertal, and certainly if any of the vets were here, I would love to talk to you about this. Hypoglycemia, hypothermia, and hypotension are the big ones you worry about. Cats and dogs have a higher respiration rate, higher O2 consumption, higher heart rate. Having said all that, they do not die. You really got to work at killing a prepube animal. I mean, you got to concentrate on it. So I like doing certain things. I mean, in an ideal world, I would deworm them. I'd do all these things prior to it. Well, that's not always an ideal world. When I go to reservations, I'm there for 2 or 3 days at a time. Once again, if they have a heartbeat, we do them, you know. Would I prefer them to be vaccinated ahead of time? Absolutely. Would I prefer them to be dewormed? Absolutely. But guess what? None of the animals are vaccinated or dewormed on the reservations, and they're not going to be, you know. So at least I can stop them from reproducing more and more. There are certain things you need to do if you can in your situation, and obviously in the places you can, I mean, and they do. So I like keeping them in heated service. I think the biggest single problem you have is hypothermia. You know, for years we thought hypoglycemia was a big thing with small animals. We know it's not, and I've done my own studies where I pull off blood and check their glucose. It doesn't seem to change a whole lot. We used to give dextrose. We still do. It doesn't hurt them, but at this point I'm not convinced it helps them either. I think they're pretty good at balancing. Having said that, if you get something really sick and emaciated, you probably want to treat it a little bit more prior to surgery. Major advantages: extremely low complication rate, extremely low death rate, rapid recovery. It's phenomenal. And if you could just see them, has anyone ever seen prepubes wake up, you know, that are 5 or 6 weeks? Within an hour, they're playing, they're eating. I mean, it's like nothing ever happened to them, you know. And then you have the 9-year-old bitch that you just did that doesn't wake up for 3 days, and when she does, she's walking all stiff and sore, you know. And you're spending all this extra money on all these drugs for pain control and everything else, you know. And it's like, and you're much more likely to have a complication. So it really is the best kept secret in veterinary medicine. I don't know why every vet's not doing it, quite frankly, because it's such an easy thing to do. And the biggest single thing, it ensures that animal will never reproduce, which is really our goal. And I got a few pictures here, and that's Dr. Marvin Mackey, who is definitely a legend in his own time. And, you know, anything comes in, we do them. I have no problem wheeling and dealing. Someone says, I have these kittens. I go, well, the first thing I say is, where's the mom? I won't take, you know, I don't mind taking kittens and rehoming them, but I want to know where the mom is. Because, you know, I can stop that cycle, but if mom's still out there, well, she's kind of semi-feral. Here's a trap, bring me mom, I'll take care of the kittens for you. You know, you got to wheel and deal all the time. That's, I believe that was a 3-week-old kitten there. So not very big. And then, maybe, you know, so, yeah. People never like those pictures, but... You know, it really isn't torture, and you know that kitten literally 2 hours later was running around playing. Okay, you know it's hard to believe, but you know, so I don't know. You know, they can't read and write, but they sure can multiply. Please neuter your pets. Weird friends and relatives. Man, if you knew my relatives, you'd know why I put that one on there. So you know, it's. This is how you get a hold of me. SpadeNeuterTaskForce.org is, we call it the task force technique. I'll be talking about that a little bit later today. It's an incredible resource, and they have lots of pictures and things, and there's CDs you can get from them. I do have a copy of their CDs, and I'm more than happy to burn them because I don't really care about copyright laws, and they're friends of mine anyway. So PlanPetedPlus.com is how you can get a hold of me. We do have a new website. I am totally computer illiterate, but we are putting more and more stuff on there. And I do have an article on prepubertal spay-neuter that has lots of resources in terms of scientific literature. So, and I have a few with me I can hand out too, but there's really no reason for your vets not to be doing this. And I think that's it.
Okay, we've got about 5 minutes for questions. Would anybody like to ask a question? Do we have some microphones?
Hi, Rachel from the Maryborough Animal Refuge. I'm just wondering, from your own point of view, how we can, you mentioned that it's very difficult to change opinions of, and in our area we find that they're very hesitant to do anything younger than 6 to 8 months. How's the best way to approach them to get them to look at early age desexing and making it part of an everyday protocol?
Well, the truth is, that's, once again, glass half empty. You got to go around them. You know, the ones that are out there, they've been out there for a while, probably aren't going to change in all honesty. But what I'll tell you is this, and I hate to say, once I've said this several times since I've been here, I hate to say this about my sex, but the reality of it is there's more and more females in our profession. And the medical profession in America is driven by females, And quite frankly, you guys just happen to be a little bit more compassionate than us guys. So those changes are happening automatically in America. The women coming out are much more open-minded, much more willing. They see shelter medicine, they see overpopulation as an issue, a societal issue, and they want to get involved. And I'll tell you just the good news, I lecture at universities all over the world, and I was in India recently, I was in Mexico recently, and I was kind of shocked at the number of kids that said, we really want to give back to the community, we want to do more, our professors won't let us, they don't have the money for it. So I think with globalization, and I'm not a real fan of globalization, and I hate the Animal Planet, but having said that, that darn show, The Animal Planet, has probably driven more compassion around the world than anything else. It's crazy because people watch that and they're like, we want to be like them. We want to do that. And, we want to help. And we want to. Now, they don't understand what it costs to do that, but who am I to squash their dreams, right?
Other questions? And I guess in answer to your question, I mean, that's what University of Queensland, Jackie, isn't it, is working on at the moment and trying to get vets out there who are aware, but it is a difficult problem in a regional area where you have no vets who will do it. Okay. Oh, we've got another question. Peter?
Yeah, just one comment. Old dogs can learn new tricks, and the one thing you do need to do is get one vet in your community doing it. Yeah. And that's what we did. Whangarei is an example. They employed a vet to do their early age desexing when they moved to desexing. And probably within a year, all the clinics were doing it, simply because they started losing money because the vets started doing it on their own animals and their own clients, and it changed within a year. So you just need one. And we had that person down. We trained them in our clinic. And the shelters will do it, and hopefully all the shelters will do it. All you need to do is just get one trained in a community.
So, no more questions? Well, thank you very much, Jeff. That was fantastic. Thank you.